Yeah, it's fine.
Cool.
Comfy. Where's the one he just did?
I've been thinking about that thing you told me, the string.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been...
That was it. That was what was in his book that reminded me of you when you brought this one up. He was saying that he would run and he'd go on this 24-hour race, the one he did in Hawaii, and how bad his legs and his feet were hurting because it was on all this hardcore terrain. And he said he got to a point where he couldn't take it anymore, so he had to take a break. And then he gets lapped by the front runner. And when the front runner came by him, he said the guy's feet weren't even touching the ground. He was hovering above the earth. He was just pushing it behind him like a duck does water.
Yeah.
He's like, how? Because I'm crushing the ground. 200 and some odd pounds just stomping.
Yeah, but somehow it's more than the weight. It's like
right. He realized that the power he was using was working against him. He's like, I got to figure out how to that guy's power, that levitating, and that comes from the Tantien. For me, it does. That's what the Qigong exercises and Tai Chi and Eastern philosophies talk about. Your center of energy is down 2 inches or an inch or so below your belly button, and that's where your center is. So if you can control that, so when you root, you send that energy down through your legs into the ground, through the bottoms of your feet, so you can't be lifted. Judo practitioners talk about grounding or rooting all the time, so they work on that. They drive, they force that energy down into the ground and lock in, like a cat.
Yeah.
But when you float, you raise it up, and you're suspended from that string, so you're just barely touching the earth, and you can move around that way. That's what in the Kung Fu story they told Grasshopper, you can't leave the temple until you can run across this rice paper without breaking it. So you have to learn how to tread so lightly that you won't tear the rice paper.
Yeah.
And he couldn't figure that out for the longest time. And then eventually in the series, I think he was being chased, or there was some kind of a attack on the temple, and he was trying to get away, and he was trying to be super quiet. And he ran through that room across that paper, and he stopped, and he looked back, and there were no tears in the paper. And he was like, I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
That is cool. It makes you wonder, did him, obviously he had been taught, but was him not trying, you know what I mean?
Not concentrating on it,
Yeah.
but knowing that he had to do it, and it kind of clicked when you least expect it. It's like you train on something, and it's like you're almost there, and then when you stop thinking about it, it's like every rider does a better run when nobody's watching, when there's no cameras, when you're not under pressure.
Yeah.
But then when the pressure's on, it's like, oh, I struggled to do this, or I sketched that. And if you can overcome that thing mentally to where a competition is not a competition, it's just, you're just riding, you're just having fun. Those are the ones who excel to the next level. Those are the ones who perform on that level every time, because they've gotten rid of that thing that's holding them back, that judgment, that self-awareness, where you're just doing the thing, just making it happen. Bruce Lee talks about that a lot too.
Yeah, it feels powerful.
Yeah, it's like, don't think about the punch, just let the punch happen. It will happen. You'll know it when it's time, and then when the opportunity presents itself, you strike. You don't have to think about it. It's pretty cool. So I'm looking for this. I'm on Goggins' page, and I'm looking for the one I just saw. But all of them are cool. Any of the times he's sitting there talking to the camera is cool.
Stay hard.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. This is it.
You're not working your butt off hard enough. You're not trying hard enough. We all think we're trying hard, but what are you gauging that off of? That's your new norm. So then it's like breathing. And then once you do this over and over and over again, it becomes like breathing. I don't want to live this lifestyle, but to get to the other side of this, I have to. So if you really want it, you realize what trying is and what trying is not.
I want to play that for my kids.
Yeah.
When they start bitching about, this is hard or, I can't do it. Bullshit.
Yeah.
You can. You're not trying hard enough.
My brain was closed to a very narrow thought process or a reality or a perception of reality just not all that long ago. Like you talking about the energy thing, I would have discounted that. I wouldn't even have given it a second thought because I had never encountered it before. So many years on the planet. You know what I mean? I would have just been like, I don't...
You were gauging your perception on your successes and your failures.
Yeah.
Which we all do, your experience. But once you've opened your mind to other experiences, it puts a little more on the table. And you're like, oh, let's check that out. Let's see what we can do with that information.
Great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I had put more stuff on the table sooner, but hey, I'm here now.
We all have our time because it's like bringing a horse to water. You can bring enlightenment to somebody. I tried to do that with my ex-wife. It didn't take. She may or may not ever reach it in this lifetime. If you believe in reincarnation, maybe we got to go around the rock a few more times before we pick up enough of these things to look at, before we evolve to the next level.
Yeah.
Some people do think that. I don't know for certain. I have no evidence, but I do know that people reach their enlightenment at different stages for whatever reason. Some people on their deathbed have all of it. At 90 years old can look back across their life and have this epiphany of, now I get it. If I'd only known, when I was 20. Now everybody gets it at 20.
Yeah. Yeah.
So few do.
How amazing would it be to get it at 20?
Man, if when they say if you could wish for anything, one wish, what would it be? And I was like, man, if I knew at 20 or at 18 what I know now, just let me rerun this shit through, I'd be in a good fucking place.
Yeah, aside from just the picking lottery numbers or buying the right stock.
Right, yeah, I know when to invest in Apple. No, just knowing life and having the confidence to go and achieve what I want to do. Not who's going to win the Super Bowl or whatever, just knowing where I'm at in life and where I want to get and how to get there would have been so much easier. I'd have got way more pussy in high school and college armed with the knowledge that I have now. Oh my God.
Man, no kidding. Imagine the fret and the stress and the worry that we put ourselves through just based on not knowing.
Right.
Okay.
And most of that shit never happens. You fret and you worry and you stress, and then it doesn't happen. And you think, whew, I dodged a bullet. But did you? You've been chewing on that bullet for 6 months.
Yeah, with a hammer on the other
right.
end.
Yeah, the bullet was never even in the gun. There was no gun you thought all that shit up, and you put yourself through hell. You did that to yourself. And it takes a while to come to that realization. And it's a daily lesson. It's just like, why do top-ranking athletes still do their basic training? They go in the batting cage, or they throw some pitches, they throw some balls around, they run and do their exercises, so the remedial shit. It's because you have to practice every day. You have to remind yourself every day. The one good thing about organized religion and going once a week to kind of get your, have the preacher talk to you is it kind of resets you, kind of reminds you, hey, you've been fucking up all week, acting like an asshole, being a real dickhead at work, treating your wife like shit, treating your kids like shit. Now you're here in church. We all know you've been an asshole all week. Let's try again. Let's reset. Let's start on Monday.
Yeah.
Give them, it's all it is a fucking pep rally every fucking week.
Yeah.
Let's do right this time. Let's get it together.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the only thing I ever I learned a lot of things in church. I'd like to think
There's a lot of good messages there.
one of the to your point, one of the most powerful lessons was controlling your motives, or maybe not controlling them, but being mindful.
Mm-hmm.
Like through that week from Sunday to Sunday, putting in the effort to put some control factors in place, and if you feel yourself being mean to the wife or doing those, being shitty to your coworkers, that sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
Having some sort of sense of we probably shouldn't do that.
You get a mirror on yourself a little bit, because
Right.
most of the time people don't. You see yourself in the morning when you brush your teeth and you go out in the day. You don't look at yourself anymore. You just do what you do.
Yeah.
But if you have that mirror with you all day long, in your mind, looking at yourself, looking the way you act, and I can guarantee you, if you ever have a touch with death or a death scare or an experience like that, you get to see yourself in all kinds of insignificant little scenarios, things that you remember that you did, that you said, where you were, whatever. And you get to see it from that mirror's point of view. And it's a fucking shocker. I was a big Bruce Lee fan when I was a kid. I always wanted to take martial arts. So I filled out one of those things, join the Joe Corley karate, 2 weeks free training. Mm-hmm. Just fill it out, put it in the box.
They got you.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know it wasn't actually a raffle. I know that now. All it is you fill it out, and then they cold call you, get you in for the 2 weeks for free, and then try and sign you up for the $400 fucking membership. Gyms do it. Everybody does it. Oh, it's free. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not free.
Yeah, spoiler alert for anybody listening.
Alert. Like, I would sit up late at night and watch those infomercials, like the Chinese guy with the girls with big tits on the yacht saying, "Oh, you can make $1 million. All you got to do is do this. Come to my seminar." My dad was like, "That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Don't listen to that."
I'm a doer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
"Oh, you could do it too. I teach you my 12 tricks. You could do it. Anybody could do it. I could do it. You could do it." And I was like, yeah, I guess sounds like bullshit. You're right. But anyway, so I filled it out. I got some lessons, started taking karate, and then I really liked it, and found a guy I worked with that taught taekwondo, and I did it for years. Then I come across this guy from California. They were building a new mall, and it was like the fitness mall. They had taken this old busted-ass building, and they made a mall out of it, and it was all fitness. So every shop in this, it wasn't a huge mall, but it wasn't small either. It was a pretty big building, 2-story, whole 9 yards. So everything in there was like a juicing place, a GNC, Pilates studio, karate studio, fucking you name it, yoga. If it was in the mid-90s and it was health and wellness based or fitness based, it was in there.
Yeah.
And shit you hadn't even heard of. Pills and proteins and diet tricks and
leg warmer socks that were that tall.
You name it, it was in there. That was what the whoever the promoter or whoever the guy was that brainstormed that's what it was. So all the little shops, all privately owned, he rented them all out. And I came across a guy that had a kung fu studio, or it was a Kenpo karate. Came across the guy there. He had come from Boston. So I wanted to check it out. Kenpo karate came from the Ed Parker style, which was the tournament that Bruce Lee went to when he first got on the map in the U.S., was the Ed Parker tournament. So Ed Parker had been in the business forever. He was lineage, his belt was certificately lineage from Ed Parker. So okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm listening. You have my attention.
Yep.
And so anyway, turns out he was just a bullshit. He was younger than me. I didn't find that out for a while. Turns out he was like 2 years younger than me, but he looked older. He was big. He was 6 foot something, 200 some odd pounds. Had a like a Aroni's beard. 5 o'clock shadow, 24/7. Mm-hmm. So he looked older. But anyway, so I started taking Kenpo with him, and he's like, you got a lot of talent. I could do a lot with this. You know, where do you want to go with this? And I was like, I'd really like to be an instructor. This was when the UFC was just being born. So bare knuckle fighting in martial arts was just started. This Dana White was not even in it yet. And so I was doing pretty good at the tournaments, and I was like, I'd love to try one of these fights. Mm-hmm. Kumite, Kumite was a big thing. Bloodsport was a movie where Jean-Claude Van Damme is like, if you really want to know where you stand as a fighter, you got to go for the kill.
Yeah.
Kill or be killed kind of fight, right? And I was like, I'd like to do just one. To see if I could do one. And so anyway, I got hard and heavy into his style, and he said, this mall thing is not working out. They're running out of money, and they're constantly needing more. The rent is skyrocketing. This was in Atlanta in mid-'90s, so the business was booming, and I'm sure he wasn't having enough students to keep paying his rent. So he said, I got a buddy in L.A. who's already got 3 studios. He's opening a 4th. Come out there with me. I work with this guy in Boston. He's already established. He's got one in Redondo, Hermosa Beach, and I'd heard those names.
Yeah.
I'd never been to California. No, I had been to California. So I had heard the names, and I knew where they were. But I didn't live there. And I was like, okay. He said, I'd like for you to come with me, and you're going to work with me first, and then when you're ready, we'll give you your own studio. And I was like...
That's a big promise.
I was like, wow. Well, when I told my dad that, he was like, it sounds too good to be true. And anything that sounds too good to be true usually is.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hear you, Dad. But you said the same when I wanted to become a professional skateboarder out of high school, and you said no. And I went to college, and look what happened.
Yeah.
I didn't do what I wanted to do, and I failed anyway. So
I'm going to do it.
I'm going to do it. And I did. I took half my life savings, packed a truck, moved out to California. And so we get out there, and shit started going sideways right out of the gate. So he was supposed to have an apartment, like a Melrose Place deal already set up. When we get out there, he didn't have that yet. So we were living in the studio, which is illegal. You're not supposed to do that.
No, yeah.
Yeah. So his solution was, and this was Henry, this was the instructor that invited me out there. So we work all day in the studio. I'm on the beach every day in my gi. Cute. I had the George Clooney haircut was big at the time. So I had long hair up to this point, really long hair, like Anthony Kiedis, down to my tits. I kept it in a ponytail all the time. So right before the move, I cut my hair. All my friends freaked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they freaked the fuck out.
It's a big move.
I had short hair. I was in shape. I was like 155 pounds, working on a 6-pack. I was good. I was limber. I was going to California.
Yeah. We're doing this.
We're doing this shit. So I get out there. He sends me out to the beach with flyers, and I'm out there canvassing all fucking day, talking to surfer chicks and whatever. I was having a blast.
Yeah.
And then we come back, and then in the afternoons, I would help teach class. And then in the evenings, I didn't have any money, so I'd go to the gas station, get a fucking hot dog, and then he got us gym memberships. I think it was, I don't know what gym it was. Doesn't matter because they had showers there. So we could go to the gym and shower. So we'd shower in the morning and at night at the gym. And then come back and sleep on the floor at the studio. And that went on for weeks.
Yeah.
Longer than it should have.
Sleeping on the floor is shitty.
It is.
Yeah. Even with your mat, I guess you had a blue mat, like, was this thick?
I did not have a mat.
Oh, fuck.
We didn't have any mats. This was not a, hard floor, sleeping on the floor.
Damn, let me refill this drink. Oh, my gosh.
So that went on for a couple of weeks, and then he did get a place finally, and we moved in. Oh, the worst part was carrying his goddamn sleeper sofa up to the 3rd floor of this fucking walk-up in California, which had super narrow, super steep stairwell. I thought I was going to die. You moved my armoire. You thought that shit was heavy? This fucking sofa was every bit as heavy as that shit.
It was so fucking...
Sofa King heavy. Yeah, Sofa King. Oh my God. Sofa King heavy. So
Holy shit.
we get in there and everything's going great. Okay. I got my place. I'm living on Long Beach. I had my bank transfer. I was starting to flirt with the bank tellers, and Henry was flirting with everybody. Well, I realized this had become a problem after I had brought some students in, and then one afternoon I came back early because I'd run out of flyers, and I hear some noise in the bathroom.
Oh, no.
He's in there fucking one of the students.
That's
Well, we had a big falling out because of that. And I told him, I was like, dude, we're not going to keep students. We're not going to succeed here if you end up fucking all the chicks that I'm bringing in here. Then they're not going to be a student anymore.
Yeah.
He's like, you're right.
There's no future in that.
He's like, you're right. Well, at first he was pissed at me. He's like, give me your key and whatnot and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
1, and 2, you're fucking all the students. They're not going to stay. We're trying to build a head count here in the house. He's like, all right, you're right. You're why I brought you here, that kind of thing. I was like, man, how can you be such a fuck up?
Yeah.
So at this point, I started putting puzzle pieces together. So he had been in Boston and in Florida and this and that and the other. And he showed me a bunch of pictures of his fancy cars and all the money he was making and his studios, which were nice, and pictures with his students and all this shit. That's great. But what the part he wasn't telling me was that he ended up getting drummed out of town at all these places because he ended up fucking up by screwing all the students. Turns out he had tried to, in that mall in Atlanta I was telling you about, while I was training the 8-year-old, I got some static in this connection. While I was training the 8-year-old, he was in the office talking to the mom about the program, ended up trying to get her to give him a blowjob. I was like, dude, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So
What an asshole.
I am already involved with this shit. This is when it occurred to me, Daniel-san, you are in the Cobra Kai. So it wasn't just him. His buddy, who already had studios out there, was the guy from Boston who had knife scars all up and down his forearms. Name was Mike, and he talked like this. Trevor, he called me Trevor. Mike would go around to other dojos, and he would slap the instructors in front of his students and challenge them to a fight. What kind of shit are you teaching these guys in here? Huh? You should come to my studio. You learn some real stuff. Yeah.
Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai. And this was right when the UFC was like the ultimate fighting thing was just taking off. So I guess he thought that was cool, or that was going to bring a lot of students. I don't know what he was thinking.
Yeah.
Turns out he was ending up smoking most of the profits in a crack pipe.
Damn.
So I was like, this is not going anywhere. They called me the Buddha head because I was into it for like that shit I was talking about earlier about walking across rice paper without breaking it and
enlightenment,
having that energy and being able to share that with people and train people. And then therefore I'm learning more because of it. And I wanted to be fucking, crouches with tigers in the fucking ring and be Daniel-san, right?
Yeah.
They were on a different tip. They were like, we want to get pussy, money, drugs, and get the fuck out of town. And I was like, ugh.
Damn.
Yeah, it kind of sucked.
Yeah, those are not parallel paths.
They were not.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I said, I'm not going to stay. I'm out of here. But I didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
In California. Packed all my shit in the back of an S10 and yeah, I
Made your way back east.
eventually made my way back east, and I had to start over. So that's like what David Goggins was talking about. It's like you're gonna have failure. You're gonna have failure. If you want to keep trying, then you gotta try hard enough to get up the next day and do it all over again. And that's what I did. And after that whole thing, I ended up in Athens, Georgia, and I got a job. It was order of business number one. So I got some money coming in. And then I turned around and I applied for a teaching job at the University of Georgia as a extracurricular rape prevention. And I did. I had a class. I think it ran 2 semesters. And I taught a handful of girls. Rape was a big thing on campuses back then, unfortunately. And so me offering that class, I actually got some students. And I did. I taught two semesters of a rape prevention class. In hindsight, I learned a lot about the fact that I had way too much information for the short period of time that I had students.
Sure.
But that was what I learned. If it was going to continue, I would have that whole program would have evolved. But I did that because I didn't want to quit what I loved doing based on the failure that I had just come from. So I kept doing it. And then I also got offered my old position back as assistant instructor at one of the other places that I had been training at. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to go backwards. I want to keep moving forward. So I appreciate it. And yes, I can't thank you enough, but I'm going to keep moving forward. So what ended up happening was I kind of I gravitated away from teaching and training, and then I ended up into DJing somehow, some way.
Yeah. It's not really a parallel path, but
Not at all.
yeah.
Not at all. And that was a strange set of circumstances to set that whole thing off. And that's a whole nother fucking story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see if Ethan is
He's got to be by now. Come on, was it 10?
9:40.
9:42. Yeah, there was a lot of fun details in that whole experience, but a good experience because that opened my eyes to a lot of real life stuff, taking chances, trusting people, money management, what it's like
to
be on the other side, a cross-country drive. The cross-country drive was an interesting experience. I'd never been cross-country. I had flown, but I've never driven it.
I haven't. I still haven't.
Driving it is a fucking experience, man.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of roads that are nothing at all. And then there's other shit where it's like, wow. Drove through Death Valley. We went through some really interesting stuff in New Mexico. Oklahoma was beautiful. I liked Oklahoma a lot because it was soft rolling hills of nothing but horse pastures and sunflowers, fields and fields of sunflowers and tall grass blowing in the wind and big blue sky and white puffy clouds. I mean, obviously it was good weather. I'm sure it doesn't look like that when it's shitty.
Right.
But it was beautiful. I just wanted to get out and go chase a horse down and ride it through the fucking sunflowers. It was awesome.
That's a trip.
And then we slept in the desert one night, and I slept in the truck and went to the bathroom at the truck stop, and then came out. I was barefoot. Not a good idea to go to a truck stop bathroom barefoot. I think I might have had flip-flops on. But anyway, the point is, the next morning, I woke up, went to go do the same thing, brushed my teeth, and noticed there were signs I didn't see last night that were, beware of scorpions, spiders, and snakes. And I'm walking around this motherfucker, kicking around flip-flops at night. Yeah.
Holy shit.
I was like, ew.
Trying to die.
Beware of this shit, because they're everywhere. And
Yeah. Apparently it's a big enough problem they posted signs.
Yes. And I was like, oh, fuck. Know your environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should have been lesson number 1.
Oh, my God.
Padawan. He hasn't responded yet. We'll see if he gives us a shot.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to take a piss break here in a second.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you like the bullet. What you got over there?
Buffalo Trace. It's very similar.
It
in
is.
flavor. Yep.
This, I don't know how to compare them, but when you gave me that the one time I was here, I knew that. And they're both from Kentucky. Mm-hmm. How about that?
I had a guy, a really smart guy at the ABC store, explain to me that the reason the flavors are similar for things in similar areas is the water.
Yes. And Kentucky's big about their water. So is Tennessee, especially Jack Daniels. They own a fucking river or a
Right.
creek. You can't get near there. They'll shoot you. You don't go fucking near
Yeah,
the
it's
Jack
our
Daniels.
water.
Yeah, it's all right, boy. I don't know where you're from.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so don't fuck with their water. But yeah, this Kentucky stuff is good, man. That trip you took to China,
Yeah.
where is that on the timeline with your West Coast trip?
Okay, so West Coast came and went. I was well into DJing. I was at the Cheetah by the time the China trip came up. So what had happened was I took a big long hiatus from after Cobra Kai. And then I did the thing in UGA just to show that I still had it, that I could still do it, but it fizzled out after that. So a story for another day was how I became a DJ, but I had done it for, we'll say, 7 years. Okay, so 7-8 years DJing, and then I had some money, and I wanted to start training again. So,
You're at the Cheetah by this point.
Yep. And I had plenty of money, and I had multiple days off to do nothing but spend money. I worked 3 nights a week, made lots of money, and the rest of my time was mine. So rather than just, dick it away, which I did plenty of that, I said, you know what? I'd really like to get back into training and do something really cool this time. So I wanted to do legit Kung Fu, like real stuff. So I searched and searched and searched, and I found this guy, Master Chong. He did not speak in class. He pointed, and he hit you with a stick, type of thing.
So illustrations. Would show you, or
he would either demonstrate or he would have another student demonstrate. But it was a lot of pointing, and it was a lot of like forcefully grabbing you and moving you, physically moving you. And that was it. And we worked out in a room about half this size.
small time.
And sometimes it was 2 students and sometimes it was 8 students. You didn't have a whole lot of room. But you did this stuff. He had us out in the parking lot in the freezing fucking cold, about as cold as it is tonight, slapping water in a bucket. Like real kung fu training.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I wanted. I paid him a lot of money for that. But, so at some point during that training, I mowed that guy's lawn. I did all kinds of Daniel, sand the floor, paint the fence. I did all that stuff. Trimmed his trees, mowed his lawn. We went for runs around the block in socks because we trained in socks in the studio. So we didn't get to put on shoes when we go run around the block. You just run in your socks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty fucking hardcore. And legit, I never even knew what fucking style I was training in. Turns out, in my best guess, it was Northern Long Fist Shaolin. It's my best guess, based on the research that I've done. But he never told me. He didn't speak. His wife spoke little. He didn't speak very much. But he was legit. And I remember, he was 70-something. And I remember him grabbing me one time, and his hand felt like a fucking vice grip. Like a goddamn claw,
Yeah.
like the beak of a parrot.
Was he mad at you?
Just
or
his
was
two
trying
fingers.
to try-
No, he was just moving me.
Yeah.
But his fingers felt like a fucking iron bars. I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Master Chong trained me for a while, and I trained at the one studio I was talking about, which was just a room. This was in Buckhead, and it was me and a UPS driver. I can't remember his name. He was another regular student, and there was a handful of other ones that came to that location. And then he had another location in the ghetto, which was mostly older dudes than myself, and they were pretty into it. And he would have us punching each other, like hard, in the stomach and stuff, and just real hard forearm blocks. We'd do this blocking routine, which was actually pretty cool because it was like up, down, into, out, and then a spin, and you'd come spinning around as hard as you could and give a downward forearm block, and you'd smash your forearms together. I had bruises from my elbow to my wrist on both sides of my arms for months. It was killing the nerves to make you hard. So hardcore training. So I did that for a while, and then his wife called and said, Master Chong wants to take some students to China to train at the Shaolin Temple. Would you like to go?
Yes.
Well, I was like, yeah, I do. And she was like, okay, it'll cost $3,000 and, whatever. You're going to leave such and such, and you're going to go here and here and there, and then you'll be home. And so I was like, okay, let me think about it for a minute. I'll get back to you. So I talked to my folks about it, and I talked to my grandmother about it. Nanny was my dad's mom, and she said, when I asked her about it, I was like, what do you think about this China trip? Because, all right, well, first of all, it was a lot of money. I had never spent that much money quick in a drop like that.
Yeah.
And to go to China, I was like, I don't know. I don't know that much about this guy or who I'm going with or
You've never talked to him.
or where we're going. He didn't speak that much. And we're going to China. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into here. And it's $3,000, and I'll be gone for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I can't remember exactly. It was a pretty good long trip. And in looking back, $3,000 was a fucking bargain. We got all kinds of shit for $3,000. Yes, I spent some more while I was there, but it wasn't that much because American conversion money, especially at that time, was great.
Yeah.
So a few bucks would get you far. And so round trip tickets, hotel stays, one or two of which were at really nice hotels in Beijing and Shanghai, then a train ride, and then our tour guide for the rest of the time, plus a trip to the Great Wall, the Forbidden City, and one or two other major tourist attractions while we were there. All was included.
The Forbidden City, how does that work?
The Forbidden City used to be they didn't let tourists in there. Well, when we were there, the Forbidden City, I used to have a picture of it on my wall. It was from a National Geographic, how it breaks out. It's a huge, massive city. It has all these outer walls and then all these inner walls, and it works like a chamber. So you come in the front, and then you're in this one big courtyard, and then it has a couple of buildings and a palace. And then you go around that one, and then you're in another one. Same thing, courtyard, palace. And then another one, and then another one. And then finally at the end was like this big garden. But they're all like these little squares that funnel down, and then you have to go through this one passageway, and then it opens back up again, and you get this big courtyard with all this interesting shit in it, and then another palace. And they were gorgeous. I mean, these huge doors, big red doors with golden knobs, like all drilled into them. There were 9 and 7 odd numbers were their big things. So 3, 7s, 9s, everything was all symmetrical. Some of the architecture, like the woodwork and the gold and the red, lots of gold and red dragons, these big throne rooms that you couldn't get in, but you could see. And we took pictures. I took tons of video. And I ended up losing the video. That was the end of the story. Like after I got back, I sent it off to a friend of mine to condense all this video I had and put it on disc for me, and he did it and sent it back to me, and it got lost in the mail.
Son of a bitch.
I know.
Yeah.
I have this in my mind though. But when we were there was like their 4th of July. So when we went to the Forbidden City, like the entire town was all decked out and all this neon. They had street vendors lining every street you could go down. Were selling, chocolate covered scorpions and fucking food and produce and T-shirts and you name it, they were fucking selling it. And the Forbidden City was lit up. Everywhere was like neon lights. They invented neon. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't know that.
Fuck. Dude, neon lights everywhere and all different colors. Their whole highways were covered in neon lights, like the underside of it.
Yeah.
Like you got here, this lighting behind this shit,
Yep.
That was everywhere. Everywhere. It was fucking incredible. And so we went to the Forbidden City. I saw that the tree they had at the end was the lover's tree, and it was 2 trees, big fucking trees. But they had trained them from the beginnings to intertwine, and they twisted around each other and grew through each other's holes and stuff. They were the lover's trees because they were inseparable. They were gorgeous, big, huge bonsai trees, massive. All their fauna was just fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Their sculptures are amazing. Big, huge, those stone lions that sit out in front of their palaces and stuff, just gorgeous. You can walk up and put your hands on them, touch them and everything. It was incredible, incredible. And one of the coolest things, long before I became a fireman, they were telling me the story of these big, giant cauldrons that they would keep water in, sat on the corners of every palace for fire control, because they had bucket brigades. So if something caught on fire was bad.
Yeah.
Fire was real bad. Didn't break out often because everything was open flame. Candles, torches, this, that, and the other. So occasionally a fucking fire would break out, and fire's bad. Got to get rid of fire. And they didn't have hoses. They didn't have,
buckets.
Buckets. So you had to have those cauldrons, big, giant cauldrons. You would need a ladder to get up and get down into it. And, of course, they were ornately designed. They were beautiful to look at, but inside, it was basically just a place to hold water. Mm-hmm. And they had them set up on the corners of every entry to every palace so that if a fire broke out, they'd have water right there on site, and they could do a bucket brigade right there and put the fire out. And I was like, that's fucking cool as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes me want one.
Yeah, dude, they were awesome. They were awesome. China was amazing. So she asked if I wanted to go. I asked Nanny about it. She said, Trevor, if you don't do it, no matter what it costs, if you don't do it, you never will, and you'll always regret it.
She was right.
She was absolutely right. She was absolutely right. We went to a place, I can't even remember what it was called. I'm sure it's very famous, and just describing it, somebody would know, but it was thousands of Buddhas carved into a mountain. One of them, or 2 of them, were like the entire size of the mountain, the whole size. But the rest of it was little bitty ones, that some as big as my pinky, all lined up next to each other. Thousands of them. Thousands of little Buddhas in the whole side of this mountain. And you just walk through and get to see all different sizes. Buddha, 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 Buddha.
That's wild.
And then the big one, you walk by and it's this big toe, and you look up and it's this fucking giant Buddha. Just sitting there, all the serene face with those little almond eyes and everything, and you're like, fuck, and they all look alike. There's certain variances, but they're all the same thing.
Hand carved.
Hand carved, bro. And you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
So I started my sense of humor. I started joking with one of the other students that went on the trip. I was like, hey, what you gonna do today? Carving Buddha. Yeah, man. We're just getting into it, man. Just carving some Buddhas today. How many did you get done? I don't know, about 4 or 5. Yeah, we got a shit ton to do, man. So what are you gonna do tomorrow? Carving Buddha. Yes.
Yeah.
Carving Buddhas. They didn't stop.
Damn.
So another impressive thing was going to the schools once we got to the Shaolin Temple, which again for me was like, I actually cried when I got there. I was just overwhelmed with. This was Bruce Lee was one of my heroes when I was a kid, And he was into martial arts, so I got into martial arts. And then I ended up meeting this guy. He takes me to China, and I go to the fucking Shaolin Temple. It's not the same one because the original one burnt down. But the point is, this signifies where it started.
Yeah.
Right? It's like going to the Vatican for a Catholic or the fucking Jerusalem or something. And yeah, so I'm there. And there's all this incense. And again, it was during a holiday, so it was packed with tourists. And everything was fanfare. They had everything was dressed up nice when we happened to be there. It wasn't like an off weekend.
Right.
So it was beautiful, flowers and everything. And they gave us this big jaw sticks or these big incense sticks, and we go to stick them in the thing before we enter. And I just started crying. I couldn't believe it. I was there. I'm at the fucking Shaolin Temple.
It seems pretty powerful.
Oh my God, it was insane. So before we actually get to the temple, we're taking the bus ride up, and those shitty little Chinese buses, little micro buses and whatnot. But they drove us past all the schools. So in China, it's a very big thing to put your kid in one of those schools. You put them in at like 4 or 5. They go in at like kindergarten age, and you don't see them until they come out as young adults.
Wow. Like not for summers or nothing?
I'm sure there's some visitation, but they're at school. Like when you send your kid away to college here, that's what they do from kindergarten there. Damn. If you are fortunate enough to be able to do that, you send your kid to an academy and they stay there until they get out. And what they're guaranteed with is either a job in the military or the police or some kind of government job, and then their benefits covers the rest of the family. So you don't have to be farmers anymore. Or even if you are farmers, you'll at least be able to get grandpa a set of teeth when he needs them.
Yeah.
Type of thing. So it's very important that one of your family members goes to one of these fucking academies.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. So martial arts is very big there. And so we would drive up the mountain. There's all these campuses, like huge college campuses, big giant buildings, big, like our campus here. That's a big, spacious, it's all these different buildings all for this one school. And then you drive a little bit further and there'd be another one. And you drive a little bit further and there'd be another one. 5, 6, 7 different schools, all had different colors. Mm-hmm. Like a professional baseball team or professional football team. You got your blue and reds over here, your yellows and blues over here, your red and whites over here, your blue and yellows over here, all the way up the mountain until you get to the Shaolin Temple. And then the Shaolin Temple was all monk stuff with the robes, the orange or the yellow robes. And their students had blue and yellow jogging suits. So if you were fucking blue and yellow, you were at the monastery.
Yeah.
And you could know what school you were from based on what colors you were wearing.
Yeah. Who's who?
So I remember seeing, after I learned that, and then we went back down into the city and went to the Forbidden City and everything, and then we're out just doing touristy shit, and I'd see some kids, like teenagers, walking around, and they had the colors on. So I knew they had been at the school. They had their fucking jacket on. They were repping their colors, for sure. Mm-hmm. I was like, fuck.
No shame in that game.
No, a lot of pride. So you pass these campuses, and they'd have massive fields, like multiple soccer fields, big, linked together, of the kids out doing their outdoor stuff. And they did it from morning, noon, and night. And they did like arithmetic and science and some of your basic studies, but the rest of the time was physical, especially at the Kung Fu academies. It was fucking all day long physical training. And they had them out there from 5-year-olds all the way up, and each field would be full of them, and they would all be synchronized. And they would be like, this group would be doing one thing, that entire field would be doing the same exercise in unison, perfect unison. Next field, a little bit older, they were doing a different thing, all in unison. 6, 7, 8 fields linked together of people, just fucking tons of people out there, all doing the same shit. You were like, holy fuck. It was like watching an ant farm or something.
Yeah, the discipline.
Oh my God. And then every school was the same way. it was so impressive. I was like, good God damn, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. So then we were there. I got to train with monks. We fucking ran up the mountain, got to see where Bada Dharma was supposedly had meditated for so long. He ended up cutting his own eyelids off and just reached fucking nirvana or whatever. And I went in the cave, and it was just, again, I was just losing it. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And fucking got trained by a monk to do a sword form, and then come home after that whole fucking experience, and then lost all the footage. I have a handful of Polaroids, and I have a 1 disc of a little bit of training that I did with the monks to prove that I fucking did it.
Right.
So there's me with the monk working out.
Yeah.
And then the demonstration that they did after we were finished of that week of training, or however long it was, them doing a demo for us, which is fucking amazing. So they do like tiger crane, drunken monkey, all these praying mantis styles, these fucking things you see in movies.
Yeah.
These kids live it. That's what they do.
They're not on TikTok.
No. This wasn't a fun or game. This is what they fucking do. This is their life. Yeah. It was intense. It was very intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't have nice dormitories with, like, cush luxuries. No, it was a fucking old stone palace with, like, no windows and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems powerful.
It was intense. Very intense.
Man, that's insane. I'm jealous.
It was insane. And I'm so glad that I did, because it was a once-in-a-lifetime type of thing. And I do have a lot of memories from that. I wish I had the footage, because I took some really good footage. I had that new Sony camera, which was the hot shit at the time, and I did effects. I took pictures of all kinds of shit, at the Great Wall, all these different monuments and things that we saw.
When I go through the editing, based on the things you've told me, I'll do some Googling and see if I can find like the Buddha wall.
Oh, fuck yeah, the Buddha Wall, man. In fact, I think there was a flood or something there, and it showed the water had come halfway up that Buddha, like halfway up that mountain.
Damn.
Yeah. There's some Buddhas lost in there.
Yeah. This was fun. Thanks for coming.
She's pumping mud, Earl.
Yeah. Shut her down.